What if you could turn an ordinary candle into a vintage showpiece using just rice paper, air dry clay, and a little paint? In today's DIY, I'm giving this plain white candle a complete transformation. I'll make air dry clay look just like rusted metal. Stick around. This is a craft you're going to want to try. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. So if you're ready, let's get started making a mess. This is a battery-operated candle, but it's covered in wax, just like a real candle. This makes it perfect for what I'm going to do today. I'm going to cover it in this beautiful rice paper. I got the A3 size paper so it would go all the way around my candle. The A3 papers are 8.7 inches by 16.5 inches. That width went around my candle all the way. I measured the length I needed at the longest part of the candle and cut my paper to fit. I actually measured a little bit longer so it would hang over both edges a little bit. Once dry, those excess edges will get removed. For the sides, I'm using a water brush to tear the paper instead of cutting it. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. You can find this in my description box below, in my favorite tools section, just in case you want to check it out. You always want to tear your rice paper or napkin instead of cutting it. A torn edge is much easier to blend than a sharp cut edge. I measured going around my candle and tore that edge as well. I kept tearing tiny bits of paper off until the two edges met each other without overlapping a lot. When the paper edges overlap, it makes the seam visible. I always try to have little to no overlap. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from decoupagenapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. My crafty friend, Julie R., requested a candle with an embossed tin-looking air dry clay embellishment. Julie, this video is for you. I'm using Pentart candle glue today to decoupage this candle. This is a flame retardant adhesive designed for safely decorating candles. This works as a fabulous decoupage glue for candles. I'm brushing a layer of the glue and then brushing down my paper with the glue, just like you normally would with any decoupage. I'm going around the whole candle and then letting this dry for about an hour. I set it upright on top of a paint jar to dry. This way none of the paper edges were disturbed. Where are you all watching from, my crafty friends? Let me know in the comments. I just love to see what cities and countries all my friends are watching from. I'm filming from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. I have excess paper hanging over the top and bottom of the candle that I need to remove. I'm going to sand off the edges using a medium grit sandpaper. Always sand in a downward motion. If you sand upward, you risk lifting the edge of your paper. At this point, it's still delicate. Sanding off the paper cuts it right off at the edge and gives you a perfect line. Now it's time to make the paper look like it's actually part of the candle. I'm using a heat gun to melt the top layer of the wax. I'm doing this section at a time on top of butcher or parchment paper, so the candle doesn't stick. I'm heating up the wax and then rolling the candle on the butcher paper to smooth it out. As you're heating up the wax, you'll see it look wet and start oozing through the paper. When you see that, it's time to give it a roll. You want to keep doing this until wax has coated the entire decoupaged paper. At this point, it will appear that the paper has become part of the candle because of the wax coating. Make sure you get all the edges as well so your paper won't peel. You'll need a heat gun for this, and I'll leave you a link in my description box below. I tried a blow dryer and it didn't work very well. All it managed to do was blow everything around in my studio. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of polyvine products. Over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below, as well as more information on the previously mentioned promotions. Please note that any of these promotions are subject to future changes. I have some beautiful white satin ribbon that I'm adding around the center of the candle. I'm piecing it together in the center front because I'll have a clay embellishment that will cover it. I'm using the candle glue to attach my ribbon. I measured and then glued it in place. I ended up adding a little bit of the candle glue in the center back to keep the ribbon from slipping out of place. I just dotted it at the top and bottom of the ribbon. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. I'm using my favorite, DOS clay, to make a floral embellishment for the front of the candle. After pressing the clay into the molds, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife and then smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid so they just pop out of the mold easily. No tiny little limbs will break off. If you want to see an in-depth video on how to work with air dry clay, click the banner in the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for that video in my description box below. Fresh out of the freezer, watch how easily these just pop out of the molds. No delicate little pieces will break off. They are frozen solids, so I'll need to let them thaw for a few minutes, but not in the mold. Make sure you remove them from the mold right away as soon as you take them out of the freezer. While it's thawing, I use that time to clean up the edges and remove any pieces of clay that don't belong. The clay has thawed, but it's only been out about 10 minutes, so it's still wet. Since the surface is curved, the clay needs to be glued in place while it's still wet. This way it will dry to the shape of the candle. I'm using the candle glue again. I'm very impressed with this glue. It really attaches well to the wax. My clay stuck immediately and didn't move at all, which is surprising because clay is so heavy when it's wet. There's a small crack in the clay on one of the leaves. I fixed it by running my palette knife over where the crevices were in the mold, and then smoothed it out with a wet brush. This made it completely disappear. Any glue that seeped out from under the clay, I removed with a damp brush right away. I'm being extremely careful not to get any glue on the satin ribbon around the embellishment. I'm using Pentart paint in the color Platinum. This has an aged silver look to it. I'm painting the entire embellishment with this color. Again, I'm being super careful not to get any paint on the ribbon. I'm going to let this dry for about an hour before moving on to the next step. The turquoise item that you're seeing me use is called a cup cradle. It's made from silicone and I rely on it a lot. I use this anytime I'm working on something round. It keeps my piece from rolling away from me. I get a lot of people asking me what it is. There'll be a link in my description box below, just in case you want to check it out. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. I'm mixing rust paint in the color Georgia Clay with some 3D powder. The powder gives paint some gritty texture. I just kept putting the powder in with my paint until it was thick and felt like the right texture. I'm not making a lot because this is going to be the rust and will be used very sparingly. I know it looks bright right now, but trust the process. It's going to look great when I'm finished. I'm using a brush and adding this around the edges and then just here and there. Picture where you'd see rust if you were looking at an old rusty piece of metal. I'm going to let that dry for an hour as well. It's July. Who is ready for some Christmas projects? I'm going to start rolling out some Christmas projects and tree ornaments. I'm going to start off by making some projects that were requested last year but couldn't complete because I ran out of time. If you have anything you'd like to see this year, let me know. I love planning projects around your requests. Just please be patient. I get a lot of requests and I get to them as quickly as I can. I'm mixing paint in the color Asphaltum, which is a gray-brown, with some water to make it runny. This is going to be somewhat of an antique. I'm brushing it over my embellishment and dabbing it with a soft, dry cloth. I'm not really wiping it like I would with an actual antiquing medium. Because I added water, the paint has become translucent and only changes the tone of what I painted and not the color. This change in tone makes the rust paint look more like actual rust and the platinum paint look more like aged metal. I added this to the top and all the side edges, being careful not to get any on that satin ribbon. I let that paint dry for about an hour and now I'm going to seal the embellishment. Since it's supposed to be rusty old metal, I don't want to add a shine with the sealer. But I'm using my favorite, Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish. But this time I'm using the Dead Flat Finish. This product is moisture and heat resistant, as well as high chemical resistant, high stain resistant, high abrasion resistant, and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupaged surface. If you need your project to be highly resistant, put 2 coats of the satin finish first, and then add the Dead Flat Finish. All those fabulous properties are a little higher in the satin finish. Now, it wouldn't be me if I didn't add some type of glitz somewhere. I'm going to use Sizzix Luster Wax in the color Silver to add back a little bit of the shiny metal highlights. This adds so much richness and really adds to that metal appearance. This silver is just gorgeous. It reminds me of the gold Eternal Wax I use, but in silver. I'm rubbing it over the embellishment lightly so it just catches the high areas, but not over any of the rust. I want the rust to remain as it is. This really brings out the detail in those flowers. I added some to the top and bottom edges of the candle as well. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. I let the silver dry for a few hours, and now I'm going to buff it with a soft dry cloth to make it shine. I've added a link to a video that I think you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that video. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.